You're listening to the Hollywood Drop Podcast. And now here's your host, Candace Cruz.
Welcome back to the Hollywood Drop. I'm your host, Candace Cruz, and today we have one of the most amazing guests we have had on so far. We have the one, the only, Dean Edwards from the Dean Edwards Show on the Digital Podcast Network.
That is my show. I love the title of that show.
I know. It's your show.
Yes, it
How
is.
does that sound? The Dean Edwards Show.
The Dean Edwards Show. When you're as full of yourself as I am, it sounds impeccably amazing.
Ooh, I feel like someone needs to introduce it just like that, too.
I'm going to introduce it in Biggie's voice. It's the Dean Edwards Show, baby. Yo, Brooklyn, we did it. We did it, Brooklyn.
I don't think I can make it through this interview without laughing. You've already got me rolling.
Mission accomplished.
Done. Yes. Okay, well, today we're having you on the Hollywood Drop because we obviously want to talk about your show that's on the Digital Podcast Network. But I want to hear more about your journey to the Digital Podcast Network because, I mean, as we all know, you were on the one and only SNL.
Yeah. That was a good look.
That was a good look.
That was a good look.
How was that?
It was and still remains great, man. Thinking about the fact that out of 45 seasons, there have only been 152 cast members on the show, and then in that number, there were only 19 cast members of African American descent, and I'm one of those. In the history of these 45 years of the show, I'm in a good space. I'm in good company with Chris. I'm with Chris Rock. With Eddie Murphy, Damon Wayans, and Tracy Morgan. Michael Shea, Leslie Jones. The list goes on. The list doesn't go on. It's a finite number, and to be amongst those people has been incredible. And then I'm always honored to reflect on my time on it because I had such a great time on the show. It was challenging. I don't want people to think that it was easy, but it was rewarding, and it still is rewarding. Still.
I mean, you guys just won an Emmy again for however many umpteen Emmys that they have within the 45 years. Yeah. But I've heard through just like reading different books and listening to different podcasts of people that are alumni from the show that it's a really rigorous process not only to get on the show, but when you're there. Can you walk me through like the beginning and then what it was like when you were on the show too?
Yeah, I mean, booking the show was a challenge because probably in the history of the show, I was one of the more fortunate ones because I booked Mad TV first, which then led to SNL. Like I booked Mad TV, I auditioned for Mad TV, had a great audition, left the audition, got a call back, had a stand-up showcase that night. Went back for the Mad TV callback the next day, crushed it. 2 weeks later, my agent calls and says, "Listen, Mad TV loved you so much, they don't need you to screen test. They're offering you 6 episodes that can roll to 13. I'm like, bet. I said, and there's better news. He's like, well, people from SNL were in the audience at that showcase you did that night, and because you were feeling so good about your Mad TV audition, that actually played well for you in front of those people from SNL because now they're interested. So it just became a summer of heat and playing both to the center, and eventually myself and my good friend Kevin Hart, Kev, and I both were auditioning. I didn't tell him at first, but when he said, "Yo, Dean, man, I need help preparing for SNL, preparing for this audition," I was like, "I'm gonna help you because you're my friend. But just so you know, I'm auditioning too."
Ooh, that's always the hard line, right? When you're auditioning with friends for the same thing.
Yeah, but you know what? I knew we both were going to Montreal's Just for Laughs Comedy Festival a week after our audition, and so my approach was, you know what? I feel good about my product. I feel good about my chances. And even if I don't book it or if Kev doesn't book it, we're going to Montreal. We're both fine. Yeah. Kev, he's been okay. He's fine.
I think he's doing okay. Like casual.
He found a way, yeah. And so from that audition, I crushed it because they say don't expect laughs, and I got big laughs in my audition because it's in this. You actually deliver your audition on home base where the hosts have delivered their monologues for 45 years.
So you were in 30 Rock when doing all of this.
You're in 30 Rock.
Whew.
The camera's on you, but there's a monitor on top, so you can actually see yourself. And I think it went well for me also because I submitted to enjoying the process. Because I remember Eddie Murphy said, "Yeah, man, I remember when I auditioned for this show. You know, every black cat in New York City auditioned for that show. Remember that dude from the Give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball? Yeah, that commercial. He was there, and a lot of cats were there, and they were like, "This is my big break. I gotta make it happen." And so, you know, I was young enough to say to them, I said, "Hey, man, have fun." And so I remember when the doors opened and I went through, I just kept saying, "Have fun, have fun." Standing on home base, Lauren's like, "Dean, thanks for coming." I'm like, "Yo, thanks for having me, man," because I'm seeing myself on home base, like I'm delivering this monologue. Had a great performance, and that was Thursday, July 12th, and by the 16th, Monday the 16th, my agent called and said, "Lauren wants to meet you on Wednesday," and I was going to Montreal on that Wednesday, and they got me a ticket to fly up at a later time. So I was like, "Oh, so he booked me, but he wants to size me up," and the rest is history. I went up to Montreal, told Kev. Actually, Kev's manager wanted to tell him first, and so he did. Dave Becky, shout out to Becky, and then after that, I went in, and Kev, it was all love. He's like, "Yo," he was proud, just like I'm proud of him now. You know, that's what friends do. You hold each other down and celebrate each other. So it was a beautiful thing.
That's a whirlwind, within 3 days. But that just brings back the point of like what's meant for you will absolutely come for you.
Exactly. So it was, and then my first day of work was actually supposed to be 9/11. My first day. A lot of people might not know that, but yeah, my first day of work was Tuesday, September 11th. So Monday, September 10th was the Michael Jackson 30-year anniversary concert, and I was excited because you know, you're like, okay, I'll have something to talk about with all the cast members I meet.
It's like first day of school,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so when, you know, that morning I was living in Park Slope in Brooklyn at the time, and I remember waking up and turning on the Today Show in the news feed, and then I opened my window and I panned maybe 3 inches to my right to look out my window, and I could see the towers from my bedroom window. I was like, "Oh wow," and didn't know what, you know. Initially, I thought a plane just flew too low, because if you were used to flying into New York City over, you would fly down Broadway. You would like actually see, oh, there's Caroline's Comedy Club, there's Times Square. So I thought it was an accident at first, and then obviously it wasn't. And then I remember that afternoon saying, "Wait, do I still have a job?" You know, because it all just hit us. It was so traumatizing to the nation, and specifically to New York City. And so that first episode, we had Giuliani and the first responders and the firemen, police officers, and it was this historical and amazing, you know, him saying, "Can we be funny?" It's like, "Oh, why start now?" You know, and sort of the nation having a collective moment to say, "All right, yeah, we gotta move forward. We can't let them win." You know, and it was a lot to deal with, but it made for a more amazing experience.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, that's just insane. Well, okay, so it happened on a Tuesday. That just brings me to my question of like, what's the week look like for SNL? Because I mean, you all are 6 days a week?
Yeah, it was 6 days. So after it happened, we probably took the week off and then regrouped the following week, and then usually the production schedule on SNL is as follows. Like, so for my first episode, Reese Witherspoon is the guest host. Alicia Keys, who is fine, musical guest all week. I'm like, I'm meeting Alicia Keys. I don't know what y'all doing, but I'm gonna meet Alicia. And even though I got a lady and my wife is pregnant, she's my girlfriend at the time, but she's pregnant with my baby. Alicia gonna have to just know that I gotta at least get my flirt on. So Monday, guest host comes in. All the cast members, all the writers crowd into Lauren's office. I sat on one end of one of the couches. Tracy stood over to my left, and every person goes through the room and pitches an idea. That's Monday evening. Then a lot of people would go out for drinks. A lot of people would go hang out. I would go get on stage. Tuesday was write night, where you take your ideas and figure out what you're gonna you'd actually write. For me, that first night was awkward because I was invited to go to dinner with Reese Witherspoon and Lauren and Reese's husband at the time, Ryan Phillippe. And so I'm now saying to myself, "Oh, but this is exciting, but I'm losing out on linking up with different writers because I want to write something." Wednesday we had the table read, where everyone that's written something, you probably by Wednesday afternoon you show up, there's a stack of probably anywhere from 40 to 55 sketches, and you're gonna read through each of them if you're in them,
right?
And it's like old school, like throwback radio, serialized radio, where you were reading the sketches and Lauren's narrating, and if they're getting laughs, then there's a good chance that your sketch is gonna at least go to the dress rehearsal show. By Wednesday night, after you take like an hour break in between the table read, by Wednesday night they put a list up of about 20 or maybe a few more than 20 sketches that wind up going to at least dress rehearsal. We block on Thursday. We block half on Thursday, block half on Friday. Saturday, show up at about 12:30, 1 o'clock, where we do full-on dress rehearsals of each. We block out about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of each sketch, and then have dinner around 6. Load in the audience at 7, do a dress rehearsal show at 8. I always told people that 8 o'clock show's better because you get more show.
Right. Because
it's probably about 2.5 hours. And then we break between shows at about 10:45, crowd into Lauren's office. Yeah. And you see the wall, the board with the sketches. You have the full rundown of the show. And hopefully your card is not to the side, because if your card's to the side, that means your sketch got cut. So that first episode, I think I was in 5 sketches and 1 got cut. I was the one that got cut. I was playing Jamie Foxx hosting the VMAs, and that sketch got cut. And I think Reese Witherspoon was playing Britney Spears, but I wound up in a Celebrity Jeopardy playing Chris Tucker, man. So that was that was fun. And then at the end, I finally met Alicia Keys because Ray Chu from the Showtime at the Apollo, he was her musical director on tour. And he saw me because I used to do warm-ups at Showtime at the Apollo. So he saw me. He's like, yo, what you doing? I was like, yo, I'm a cast member, man, And then Alicia. Now, here's the thing. I want to meet Alicia Keys all week, but in this particular episode, they have me playing Grace Jones. So I'm in a mini skirt and this big 2-foot hat and these leather and these stilettos. And of course, right before I go to do the sketch, who walks by but Alicia like, you better work them pumps. I was like, damn, she got me.
There goes the flirting.
Yeah, I guess
flirting's
the flirting
not happening anymore.
I still got my hug though. And then we had a great show, and then the after party is just, yo, we're happy we made it, and now how do we do it all again next week?
Oh my
it's a
God.
lot. It's a
That's
lot.
insane. And Sunday you sleep for like all day long.
Sunday you sleep. In my case, go to my mother-in-law's for West Indian cooking. Sid.
Aww.
Respect, Sid, every time.
There you go. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And now you have your own show.
Yeah. Now, look, all of that led to the Dean Edwards show on the Digital Podcast Network, and we've had some great shows. We've had some great guests, talking lifestyles, talking money management, talking entertainment. Had my man Bill Bellamy. We did 2 wonderful episodes with Bill Bellamy, who was an inspiration to me when I first started, and still continues to push and inspire me. His good friend, my man Royale Watkins, who's a writer and producer. He directed my man Lil Rail's comedy special that Kev Hart produced. I'm like running Ida Rodriguez and Shantae Wayans, who both just did comedy specials for Netflix, and Tiffany Haddish presents They Ready. So we have some really great episodes, and I think the best part about it is, for me, is I get to have these people, these friends of mine, and also just people that I'm just meeting, tell their stories, because I looked at Eddie Murphy was the reason that he's the person that inspired me to do this. And I always said, what, my main goal with what I do is not only to entertain people, but to inspire them to, achieve something great. And what better way to do that than with this platform on the Digital Podcast Network with the Dean Edwards Show.
I mean, I want to hear way more about this show, but before we do that, we're going to go to a quick break.
Okay.
So guys, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Hollywood Drop. I'm your host, Candace Cruz, and today we have been talking to the one, the only, Dean Edwards from the
love
Dean
how she
Edwards
says my
Show.
name. Thank you.
Yes, it has to be epic.
Even if I ran over her saying it.
So you can run over me anytime.
Thank you,
I'm just so glad that you've been here.
I've had a blast.
I'm just sitting here in awe because this is what it's all about. Mm-hmm. Your story that you shared, because I mean, I've been in LA for years, and you know, this, whether you want to be a comedian or a singer or an actor or entrepreneur, like that's the dream.
Right.
Like to have those pockets of moments that it flows effortlessly.
Yeah.
Like you had with your auditions and just things falling into place. And like now you obviously have your own show.
Right. You've
interviewed a lot of inspirational people, and you mentioned they were your friends and colleagues. What has been the most inspirational story that you've listened to?
I don't know if it's the most inspirational, but I been inspired by the people who have sort of overcome such varied adversity that would have made the layperson quit.
Yeah.
You know, I mentioned we had Ada Rodriguez, who's a phenomenal stand-up, and also just extremely woke. You know, she's a young Turk, and she's a frequent guest, and always is speaking on for the downtrodden, people that don't have the same opportunity, and she uses her platform to speak up for people with smaller voices. Mm-hmm. But hearing her story, watching her Netflix special, and seeing that she performed on Last Comic Stand, and I was asking her about what's it like to be an attractive woman in the world of comedy, where they tell you, you know what, you don't wear a dress. You can't wear a dress. You can't be too feminine, because people in the audience have their own prejudgments against someone if they're too girly girl.
Right.
Women are gonna be judgmental, like, who she thinks she is. She thinks she's cute. Guys are gonna be like, no, I'm not thinking about her jokes. I'm thinking about something else. And so she's, when she was on Last Comic Standing, she wore a yellow dress in I think one of her final rounds. And she said she got a lot of backlash online from that. People projecting their insecurities, and why is she wearing a dress, not realizing that her grandmother and her uncle, her two closest friends in life, both had just passed away. Her uncle tragically had been her uncle was gay, and so he was the victim of a hate crime. And so but the show must go on in the realm of Hollywood. Right. And so she performed with that pain to give other people joy and give other people laughter. And the reason she performed in a dress was because her grandmother always said, "Do me a favor when you're on if you're ever on television, please look like a woman. Please look like a girl." And so she was honoring her family members with what she was wearing, and overcoming that. And then also she jokes about it. So I don't want people like, damn, he's insensitive. But she was kidnapped twice by her family members when she was a kid.
Not just once.
She was kidnapped by her
twice.
She was kidnapped. She was in Miami, and her stepdad, I believe, killed someone. It was involuntary manslaughter from how she described it. It was involuntary, but he ran, and they went on the lam. They became fugitives, so they snuck away and hid in Washington Heights in New York City. And then her grandmother and uncle snuck to Washington Heights, shaved her head, and snuck her back to Miami. And this is where her comedy comes from.
How? Like, what is this family?
Right,
that should be a show in and of itself, alone from her stand-up.
Hearing the story, you being in Hollywood, you immediately are like, you got to write that screenplay.
Right.
That sounds like an amazing story.
Right.
So her story is inspirational because she overcame all of that tragedy and pain and adversity, and is winning right now.
Yeah.
Shantae Wayans, who I interviewed, who's also a good friend who I knew when she first started in comedy. Yeah. Her last name is Wayans, so you know her family and you know their legacy. She has to live up to that legacy, and those are heavy shoes to fill. That's a lot of shadow to fill because there's so many talented people in her family. to add to that, she is a gay woman, and she's fine. So once again, she's dealing with the prejudice of being a fine woman, and she's also dealing with the prejudice of, can a gay woman make it being herself and not hiding and saying, well, here, I have to, on the flip side, here, I have to dress a certain way, and I want people to think that I'm a woman, even though I am gay, And so she's dealing with that dichotomy and having to fight that and fight going to perform in the Bible Belt where people are going to be more judgmental. Her story is amazing, and hearing her, and these are the type of stories that we've had on our show. That ultimately, there's a lot of laughs. There's a lot of pain, but we laugh through a lot of laughs, hoping that the people at home that are subscribing and listening to the Dean Edwards Show on the Digital Podcast Network, these people are being touched because they're like, yo, somebody out there. We hope we touch someone out there, and they say, you know what? I went through something similar. I went through the same type of adversity, and if they made it, I can make it too.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah. Wait, do you have a list, like a dream list of who all you want to have on the show?
Shoot, you know what I mean? On the top of the list is Kev. I'd love to have Kev, and I'm sure I actually believe that I can and will get him. But it's like, I also know I know he's busy. I know Tiffany. Tiffany Haddish, a good friend of mine. Tiffany, I'm gonna ask you at some point to come do my show, but I know you pace it and you wait, and we knocked out probably like 30-something episodes. We put them in the can because we know y'all have short attention spans, all right?
Right.
We know y'all have short attention spans, but we're like, you know what? We have these episodes that are, roughly around 30 minutes or so, and it's enough that people can listen on the treadmill. People can listen to these episodes in the car, and say, okay, you know what? I listened to that one episode on the first part. I got to hit a second episode when I'm headed home.
I listen to my podcasts all the time. Right. I feel like we're in the era of podcasts, which is so exciting to be on the Digital Podcast Network, to have your show and to be able to share all these stories. Yes. And I'm just so grateful that you came on my show.
No, I'm grateful that you had me on here to let people know about my show on your show.
Hey anytime, now. Back and forth.
I'll be back. We got to have you on mine.
Yes, please.
I know you got a story to tell.
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
She got a Puerto Rican dad and a mom of German descent from Kentucky.
Oh, that's a dichotomy in and of itself. That's another story another time. Listen, my comedy's coming out now. Can I audition?
Yeah, of course you
can. Sure, why not? I'm nowhere near you, but thank you so much.
No, you right here with me. I appreciate
right
you
there.
having me here.
I appreciate you coming on, and thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you guys next time. Again, my name is Candace Cruz for The Hollywood Drop.
Candace!
You've been listening to the Hollywood Drop Podcast. If it's new and fresh in Hollywood, you'll find it right here on the Hollywood Drop.